Okay.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Howard, welcome.
Thank you. Oh, let me mute myself. Sorry.
No. Okay. There we go. Okay. So tonight we are going to do chapters 10 and 11 of Tanya. If you have your book, The Practical Tanya, it's on page 122. All right. Quick review. If there's any internet or connectivity problems, let me know. So, a very quick review of the first 9 chapters that we covered till now. Chapters 1 through 8 essentially told us the following info. You have an animal soul, you have a godly soul. Each one of those souls has a full set of faculties. They both have, the animal soul's about selfish, self-perpetuation, pleasure. The godly soul's about selflessness and becoming one in the ultimate oneness of God. It's about losing itself, merging into that, the ultimate truth. And each of those souls or drives has a complete set of intellectual and emotional capacities. We call them the 10 kochot, each one to their aim. That's what they are. There's intellect and emotion of the animal soul, intellect and emotion of the godly soul. They also, each one of them has 3 garments, which is thought, speech, and action, which is what these souls do. This is the way they can express themselves, 3 expressions. Thought, speech, and action of the animal soul, and thought, speech, and action of the godly soul. That was 1 through 8. Last week, chapter 9, we spoke about how these 2 souls are in a battle. And what is the country, the terrain they're battling for? It's the body. Each soul, from its headquarters, its base, each soul is trying to conquer the thought, speech, and action of the body to its aim, its thought, speech, and action. The animal soul, which we said resides in the left ventricle of the heart, which is meaning where the blood flows, pumps, the part of the heart that is filled with blood, I think, going in or out, I forget, but the point is that it's characterized by blood, passion. That's the base of the animal soul, not physically, but it's a physical incarnate of that. It's manifest. That animal passion is manifest there, and that's its base, from which there it wants to conquer and control all parts of the body, even the thought, even the intellect. For sure, the speech and the action as well. The divine soul, we said, rests, its base is in the mind, the intellect, and the right side of the heart, meaning places that are more thoughtful, intellectual. And from there, it tries to control the action and speech and thought of the body. And each one has thought and emotions. They all have everything, remember. But they want to control. Each one wants to control. The godless wants to control the body. The animal wants to control the body. But I hope you're getting from here that this is more sophisticated than the typical way we talk in Torah about good inclination, bad inclination. You have a Yetzer Tov and a Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Tov is the good inclination, the Yetzer Hara is the bad inclination. The animal soul, godly soul paradigm has that in there, but it's much more. It says each one has a whole way of perceiving things, selfish or selfless, a way of feeling things, but whatever that you want to call them, they are both trying to take, they're battling for the body, the consciousness. For you, your free choice to allow it, to pick it. The two candidates vying for candidacy of the body. In chapters 10 and 11, before I go on, I did want to address a question someone mentioned, and a few people actually mentioned it, so I do want to talk about intuition. Can everybody still hear me good?
I can,
Yeah, you're good.
Good, okay. The Alan just asked the question, where's the I in this? That's a really great question, the I. Who's choosing? Who's choosing between the animals to the godless? Who's the I? So it's not brought down in Tanya, but it's sort of implied in Tanya. It's brought down in other sources in Hasidic philosophy. There's actually a third soul called the Nefesh HaSichlit. Nefesh HaSichlit is the intellectual soul. In other words, it's the I guess the rational soul that is going to choose, will it give in to the built-in drive of the animal, pleasure-seeking, self-perpetuation, or will it be sublimated and understand, more sophisticated and more civilized, and choose the divine soul's aims, which is really humility, surrendering to a higher cause, becoming merging part of God's oneness. That's what it's brought down to. It's a great question. Who's the I? Some explain that the nefesh HaSichlit, the third soul, is not really a third soul. It's actually the human intellect of the animal soul gets to choose. Does it want to just give in to more pleasure, or does it want to allow itself to be sublimated to a higher purpose? But I think an easier way is understanding it is it's the third soul that's choosing. Okay, so that's the I that's choosing. The other question was about intuition. Where does intuition come from? That was last week. I was talking it over with somebody, another student of Tanya, and I still think that intuition, in the chat box, who here thinks intuition is a good thing, always a good thing, or can it be a bad thing? I want to get some feeling here of what everybody's opinion is. Intuition, is it always good if you can go with your intuition? Is it sometimes good? Is it mostly bad? What say you people? Right in the chat box. So it's your gut feeling, right? That is intuition, but is it good? Is it for the good? Okay, not always good, mostly good. Intuition, not necessarily good or bad, needs to be informed. Okay. without intellect? Could be both, depends. So I think absolutely. I think what everybody's saying is really getting to the point is that I think it could be good and bad. And by the way, good and bad, we have to always go back to Tanya's definition of good and bad. Good and bad is not like, virtuous or wicked. It's right. We said it's a different point. Good means holy, and bad or unholy means anything that is not surrendering to that holiness. Right? Holy means something that is surrendered, makes room, total room for God's presence and God's will. Unholiness is anything that's not about God's will, or it's even if it's not a sin, it's just not. It's not being surrendered. I don't like the word surrendered so much. Being humbled and ready, making room for God's presence. It has some sense of self. Even kosher pleasure is a sense of it's not holy. We talked about different levels of unholy. Klipa, snoga, klipa, 3 klipas. But intuition, I think, can go either way. Is it the intuition coming from your godly soul? Is intuition coming from your animal soul? And I'll prove it. Intuition, I said something, Howard said it has to be informed. I think it's a very good point. Someone who is a child that grows up, a jungle child, right? Someone doesn't grow up going to school in a civilized place, right? What's their intuition going to be? Let's throw back to Rudyard Kipling, Mowgli, I don't forget if I pronounced it. What was Mowgli's intuition? Was it divine soul? Did he even know about anything other than survival? So I'd say intuition can easily come. I think naturally probably comes from the animal soul. I'd say a lot of times your intuition, the animal soul is not bad. It's just self-protecting preservation. And you can be very sophisticated in how to protect and perpetuate and get pleasure and get what you want. It's a self-actualization. That's intuition. You could have, I believe we all, because we have a divine soul, there will be some intuitions from there, but I don't think it's always coming from the divine soul. So is intuition some sort of belief? I'm not sure. A belief in the self, you mean like believing in yourself, believing you can, from your experience and know-how, that you can go with your feeling? Is that what you mean, Howard? That you know better. You know better than somebody else, know better than the pundits, know better than doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, to answer your question, yeah, that's what I think. I'm wondering, is that sort of like a belief that, my gut reaction, as somebody mentioned, the facts might show otherwise, but I'm going to go with how I think and feel about this. So you're really believing more in yourself than...
Right.
I think what Sharon just wrote, doesn't go through other conduits. Right.
Right. Well, this is great. I really appreciate it. I am happy we got a lot of back and forth on this. Okay. Just see quickly. All right. Anyways. So we're going to move on to all right. We're going to move on to chapters 10 and 11 now. Chapters 10 and 11 are going to talk about they're going to talk about as follows. If you remember in chapter 1, Tanya means we taught in the Talmudic passage, we taught that when the soul, before it comes to the body, it's made to take an oath. What's the oath? Tihi Tzadik va'al tihi Rasha. Be a tzaddik, you soul, you pure soul. You're going into the body for your mission. Tihi tzaddik, be a tzaddik. Be a right, for lack of a better translation at this moment, be a righteous man. The Alti Russia, don't be wicked. That's the oath that's administered to us before we come into the body. And as I mentioned in the first class, that's a pretty important passage of Talmud for us to understand. Alan, great question. I'll mention in a second. It's pretty important to remember that this is your mission if you dare to accept it. Like, this is your guiding mission of what you're supposed to be doing in this lifetime. So it must be very important. So we got to really analyze it. Be a tzaddik. Okay, I'm here in this world. I'm in this life to be a tzaddik and not to fall prey to being a Rasha. What does that mean? What does that mean, be a tzaddik, and what does it mean to not be a Rasha? As Alan mentioned, which soul is getting this? Well, let's think. Who's the soul in heaven? The animal soul or the godly soul? I mean, pre-body. What's the soul that is first, I guess? It exists pre-body in God's presence, in the spiritual realm of souls. Which soul do you think that is?
The godly soul, right?
The godly soul. Yeah, the godly soul. Right? The animal soul is an interface that comes to exist between the godly soul and the body. Right? You only need an animal soul, which is like a psychological drive, an emotional drive of self-perpetuation when there's a body that you need to keep perpetuating. The godly soul predates it all before there's a body or even a thought of a body. But when there's a body, this godly soul has to have that metaphysical interface called the animal soul. And actually we spoke about how the animal soul at the second of birth is full throttle. And the godly soul only fully integrates by the bar mitzvah. That's integration. As far as so the godly soul is the one getting this oath. So why is it getting an oath? What's the oath going to help the godly soul? The godly soul, give the animal soul the oath. Right? The godly soul wants to do good. What's it? Why are you even trying to promise me? Yeah, I promise. I have no will otherwise other than do what God wants. So one of the ways of understanding oath is actually the oath is an empowerment. The word mashpian oisai, that we make him swear, can also etymologically mean we satiate the soul, meaning we're like powering it up with this oath. I mean, this oath becomes like a subliminal message that is in the back of our psyches, that we know that ultimately everybody knows that their mission in this world is to be a tzaddik and not be a Rasha. So today in chapters 10 and 11, we're going to talk about the definition of Tzadik and Rasha. Next week in chapter 12, we're going to talk about the Beinoni, the fifth category. There's the third category, but really it's the fifth category because Tzadik has two subsets and Rasha has two subsets. There's two types of Tzadik, there's two types of Rasha. We're going to talk about it this week. Alan mentioned we're incarnated against our will. Yeah, it says in Pirkei Avot, you are al karchach atachai. By force, you are made to live. The soul is put into the body against its will. Because exactly right, the godly soul has no interest being in this world.
Why would it want to be in a world where it's divisive and hides ungodliness? The word olam, world, comes from the etymological roots, helem, hiddenness. That's torture for the godly soul. So the real soul is the godly soul. The most essential soul is the godly soul. But yeah, I mean, I say, I don't know about the real soul. I'd say it's the deepest soul. But for our when we're in our body, the animal soul is very real also. Don't be fooled. I'm going to go a little further. So when I get to heaven, there will not be an animal soul anymore. Let's put that question on hold. It's a good question. We'll put it on hold after this class, if you remember. Okay. So we're going to talk about two types of tzaddik, a tale of two tzaddiks. A complete tzaddik and an incomplete tzaddik. These are the terms the Talmud says, that there's a complete tzaddik and an incomplete tzaddik. The complete tzaddik is the higher level. It is also known as the tzaddik v'tov lo, the tzaddik that is good to him. The incomplete tzaddik is also known as the tzaddik v'ra lo, the tzaddik that has bad to him. What does that mean? Let's talk about the incomplete tzaddik first, and we'll work our way up. The incomplete tzaddik, well, first of all, when we talk about Rosh Hashanah, Maimonides brings it down, that Maimonides brings down that we're judged before Rosh Hashanah. And if we are righteous, if we're majority righteous, our judgment is for the good. If we are found to be majority bad, our judgment is for the bad. And it says, if you're judged majority good, then you're considered a tzaddik. If you're judged majority bad, you're considered a rasha. But that's not, and Tanya mentioned in chapter 1, that's not the essential definition of what a tzaddik and rasha is. That's just in regards to a verdict, you're either innocent or guilty. You don't have to be you're in the verdict, you're either considered righteous enough or too bad for the verdict. It's not all or nothing. But in this case, we're talking about so that's typically the way we talk about tzaddik. But tzaddik is a good person. Person who's at least majority good, if not more. But would your soul coming into this world need an oath be 51%? For every sin you do, make sure to do 1.5 good things. Is that what you think the soul is told? Come to this world, and your mission is to do 51% good and 49% and overcome the 49% bad. Is that a mission? You need a real empowerment for that? By the way, 51 and 49 doesn't mean, quantity, it's qualitatively. So obviously our mission in this world is not just to be 51%, even qualitative 51% good over bad. It's to become fully, to really maximize our soul's potential. And that's what the oath is. How do we, you can be a tzaddik, means to maximize your soul's potential. So let's talk about a tzaddik, someone who, in the Tanya's definition, who's maximized their soul's potential. An incomplete tzaddik is someone who's maximized their soul's potential as follows. The tzaddik is incomplete, as I said, is also known as the tzaddik that is bad to him. Meaning that whatever bad he has, he or she has, it is subservient entirely to the good, to the godly soul. So the evil, the bad of the animal soul is totally subservient to the good of the godly soul. Now, it's still, because that means that this person, this incomplete tzaddik, is someone that has totally overcome their evil inclination. The evil inclination will never want to do bad by this person. This is a very, very small fraction of people. Basically what it took the Yetzer Hara, or the animal soul, similar terms, and it slaughtered it. It basically, due to overpowering it with divine, with God's, with Torah, mitzvahs, and making divine perspective his perspective, and generating emotions like that, any type of selfishness, forget even evil, there's selfishness or self-perpetuation is overrun. And it's flooded. It's flooded with the light of the soul, of the godly soul. Now, you might say, oh my gosh, this is a saint. This is someone that doesn't even want, they don't even have a desire. Their animal soul doesn't even have the ability to pop up in your mind and say, maybe you should do this, or even just think about this selfish thought. Forget bad thought, even selfish thought. It totally it flooded it. Yet it's called an incomplete tzaddik because the animal soul still has a vestige of selfishness, but it's totally not ever practically going to come to the fore because it's so flooded by the light of the divine soul. The next category, the tzaddik, the complete tzaddik, also known as the tzaddik v'tovlo, the tzaddik that is good, that it's good to him, is that not only did he vanquish the animal soul, that no longer will the animal soul have a say, even in thought, but he actually converted, transformed the animal soul to take its talents and be an agent for the divine will exclusively. Meaning he now doesn't have, not only does he have a divine soul, he has two divine souls. One's a divine soul that he was born with, that we all have, and the other one is an animal soul that it now becomes an agent devoted to the divine aim. So he's got two divine souls in a sense. Now, what does that help you? Why do you need more than one divine soul? Why don't you just, as long as you're like the incomplete tzaddik? I just want to point out, by the way, that King David said, "V'libi chalol b'kirbi," he says, my heart was slain inside of me. And the Talmud says that through through King David's acts of penitence and fasting, he slayed his Yetzer Hara, and he became a tzaddik, someone that didn't have a sense of animal soul, self, or selfishness or bad. These obviously a tzaddik, whether incomplete or a complete tzaddik, is not 99.9%. I was asked, when did King David do that? I'm not positive, I'm not sure. I have to look it up. That's the Talmud. Probably after story with Bathsheba, but it's at some point in his life. Anyways, what is the gain of the tzaddik that's complete versus the tzaddik that's incomplete? They both have no chance of doing bad. Or put it like this, the incomplete tzaddik he annihilated his animal soul, and he's just going by the divine soul. And the complete tzaddik took the divine soul, and he made a second divine soul that was originally an animal soul. What's the benefit?
Rabbi, I think we lost you. No sound. And your picture is frozen.
Yes, I see it.
Rabbi.
Yeah, it's frozen.
You're frozen, Rabbi.
I'm frozen.
Okay, we'll wait.
He'll
for
come
you.
back on. We should just wait, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes you have to sign out and sign back in.
Yeah.
All right, Rabbi, if you.
How you doing, Alan?
Huh?
How you doing?
I'm pretty good. How you doing?
I'm all right.
I'm afraid to go too far, but I go down the street and back up the street. That's my big.
I get it. I'm working from home now. So during the week, I'm just here, and sometimes on the weekend, I'll go to a park or something.
Very good.
Occasional trip to the grocery store with a mask on.
Yeah, I do Malik's and Lipman's one.
All right, everybody, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
Yes.
All right, good. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened to my connection. All right, back to you. So there's a lot of benefit to the animal soul, a lot of drama, a lot of passion, a lot of brute strength. It's compared to an ox. So it actually takes that brute strength, which would usually be for selfish perpetuation, and it says, okay, I'm going to use it as a vehicle for God's dissemination and godly will.
Did the Rabbi,
So,
was
mere
the
fact-
Rabbi able to do that?
Was the Rebbe able to do that?
Yeah.
So yes,
Okay.
I would say yes, absolutely. No problem. All right. So moving along. So moving along here, that's the tzaddik and the incomplete tzaddik. Why is this important for us to know about it? None of us are going to reach this level. The Rebbe reached this level. Is it tzaddik born or is it tzaddik become? Probably both. But the point is that this is not in the realm for most people to even try to achieve. So why is the Tanya telling us about this? So one of the reasons is it's going to be in context compared to what we could achieve. That's number one, which is called the Beinoni. We'll get to that next week. The next thing it's important to know is that although we are not fully tzaddik, we're not fully run naturally, that our insides aren't always telling us to do God's will and mitzvah. We have selfish or sometimes sinful insides that we have to overcome. We don't necessarily have to actualize them, but we all have a tzaddik moment. We all can have a tzaddik moment where we don't even have a desire for something. And by the way, one of the differences of the tzaddik, the complete tzaddik and the incomplete tzaddik, is their disgust by a sin or disgust for something selfish. Because we said before, we mentioned with by Yaakov and Esav says one is commensurate with the other. When one rises, one falls. The more love and perspective a tzaddik has that God is the most important thing, and that is the real reality, and everything else is just a setting for that, that anything that will even temporarily hide on that, like a sin, will be abhorrent to the tzaddik. But since the complete tzaddik transformed the animal soul to now be a vehicle for God, and it's only between that divine soul and the animal soul, there's real, constant love and awe for God, even even natural emotion for the tzaddik. So naturally, this tzaddik will also be abhorrent of any bad. The incomplete tzaddik, because he doesn't have that boost of the animal soul becoming now a divine soul with animal intensity, the love isn't as great. The love isn't as great. Therefore, the disdain for anything that hides on God isn't as strong. Another difference is the complete tzaddik only cares about is like a loyal child to a parent. That the needs of the parent are more important to that child than the child's needs him or herself. So the tzaddik is like a loyal, open, devoted child of God, where God's aims of this world, which is, we talk later in Tanya, the God's plan of this world is a dira b'tachtonim, a dwelling place in the lower realms, a dwelling place in the lower realms, and all mitzvahs and all Torah is only to make this world a transformed world for God. That is the desire of the godly soul, of the tzaddik. He doesn't even care. The incomplete tzaddik might want to connect to God because that's so powerful and beautiful and ecstatic. And that's all it cares about. But that's a little bit of self, albeit a holy self. The complete tzaddik doesn't even care about what it's going to gain spiritually, or even what it's going to feel, or it's going to be like giving a cold drink of water to a parched soul. That's it, doing mitzvahs and learning Torah. It doesn't even care about that. It doesn't care, I'm going to get a drink of water. I'm going to get close to God. I'm going to feel this closeness. The complete tzaddik doesn't concern him. The incomplete tzaddik, maybe it does a little bit. Because, and he's not 100. The way it's explained is, like, when there's a certain amount of poison diluted in a large body of water, it's neutralized. It's not harmful because it's such a small ratio. So the incomplete tzaddik, there's many different levels of incomplete tzaddik, is the selfishness is just, it's there, but it's totally overwhelmed. It's flooded. It's overwhelmed by the preponderant, by the flood of good of the godly soul. Okay, let's talk about the two types of Rasha. So why do you have to know about being a tzaddik? Because you have to know what you're not. Also, one thing that Tanya is going to point to is people that think that they should learn in Torah and become so holy that they should have no selfishness. That's not for 99% of the people. You're going to see we all, even someone who behaviorally will always do the right thing, could still have insides that are selfish, but they don't overcome it. A tzaddik doesn't even have the insides that are selfish or bad. But no, if you're not naturally always doing, if your natural impulse is not always God's will, then you're probably not a tzaddik. Okay, a Rasha. So in the Talmud, it spoke of there's two types of Rasha that they go right against the two types of tzaddik. The tzaddik that is incomplete is also known as the tzaddik that is bad to him. It's totally nullified to the good. And there's the Rasha that is good to him. A Rasha lack of a better translation, wicked, or we'll see what that means in a minute, that has good, the good of the godly soul, but the good of the is known to his identity as a Rasha. I don't want to say wicked because that means diabolical. So let's start with the Rasha. Okay. This is going to mute everybody. Okay. The Rasha that is good to him, meaning that his animal soul is in control, has what's the difference between diabolical versus Rasha? It's very different. One is Rasha is usually used in like a term of like very evil, wicked person. In the context of Tanya, you see that someone who is a very good person, very righteous, can still be classified as a Rasha, at least in their insides. Because the way we're going to define the Rasha is the one who the animal soul has possibility to come out. You have not vanquished it. You have an animal. If you have an animal soul, and you've ever let it come to be the one to control your behavior, doesn't mean bad. It can mean just selfish. That is the term of Rasha in the Tanya's terminology. The animal soul is the one running the show, or at least maybe not. It doesn't make a difference, even if it barely ever does it. The fact that it could run the show. Is the concept of a Rasha. The Rasha means wicked in the sense of the animal soul is the one who either is or could be running the show. But there's a category of a Rasha that has good. The animal soul, the person who is the person whose animal soul is or could be in control, has a lot of good of the godly soul, and therefore it can do a sin. It can even do something selfish, even something very, very minor. But that's irrelevant. It could be also once in a while. It can even just be, I didn't actually do sin, but I fantasized about sin. I didn't do anything wrong. But we said thought is also a garment, not just action or speech. But even that means that in those three expressions, any of them, action, speech, or thought, if the animal soul could or does get to choose and control that is a Rasha. But because there's the good, this is an incomplete Rasha. This is a non-complete Rasha. Now, the reason we're telling you this is not that you're like, oh my gosh, we're all Rashas, you know? If we ever can allow our animal soul to come to the fore, we're all Rasha. It's not to make you sound like it's not to label anybody. This is for self-assessment, to know, to read your insides. It's very good with our conversation about intuition. We're trying to really assess what's going on inside of ourselves to know which intuition or urge, even psychologically, where is it coming from? Is it coming from animal soul or godly soul? Now, it talks about that there's an animal soul, or a Rasha, someone who's, before I get there, you have a huge spectrum of this Rasha Vitovlo, this incomplete Rasha, the Rasha that has good. You can have someone who never ever sins besides a fantasy once in a while. You can have someone who sins a lot. The difference is that because they have a godly soul, they always have different levels, but they have regret because the divine soul is integrated, and they feel they can't ignore it, so they'll have regret. They might succumb to a sin or to a sinful thought, but then they'll have the divine soul, the good, will say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that, or I want to do good. But because the animal soul is the one that's really controlling, or being allowed to control, or has the ability to control, or was not annihilated, like by all, this is all of us. At whatever level it is. Because of that, it's a serial offender. you're going to feel like, oh my gosh, I should have controlled myself, whether in thought, speech, or action. I have regret. That regret's coming from the divine soul. But but then you'll do it again, because why? Because who's in control? Who's in control? Who is being allowed to be given control? The animal soul. That is what we mean by a Rasha. Someone that allows their animal soul to gain control, even at the smallest level, is considered a Rasha. But they have the good that will have regret and hopefully spur them to do teshuvah or work their way to become better and better. But it's always, the point is, it's never like, it's Tzadik in a sense has it easy. Not as easy, but anybody else always has a battle. We're going to talk in chapter 12, the person who masters the battle, the ongoing battle, the Beinoni. Right now we're talking about someone who can master sometimes, but sometimes not. That is what we call a Rasha. The Rasha, then the complete Rasha. The complete Rasha is the Rasha that is bad to him, in the sense of the complete Rasha is someone that the animal soul has such control to the point that their godly soul is silenced. And it's like, they give it's not literal, but it's in its spatial terms, its godly soul is no longer integrated, it's like hovering. Because we said every Jewish person has a godly soul, the Jewish godly soul. But if someone is such a wicked person, they're given to the animal soul controls in such an extent that the godly soul becomes very much background and barely, I don't even know if it exists, because it can almost be a theoretical concept as someone that could have no regret. It's just telling you the spectrum, the potential. It almost sounds like a sociopath. I mean, it's not the same thing, but it's saying like a sociopath has no empathy, right? It doesn't have good or bad. It's amoral. There's no, I'm doing bad, and yeah, I know I'm doing bad, and it doesn't see bad as bad. So this very extreme case of Rasha is that the extreme case of Rasha is doesn't even have the godly soul integrated enough to make it feel guilty. Now you know where Jewish guilt comes from. It's from the godly soul. Okay. Okay. But there we go. We went through the 4 categories of the 2 types of tzaddik. I'm going to go over the summary. There's the incomplete tzaddik. He vanquished his animal soul. He has no yetzer hara. There's the complete tzaddik that not only did he vanquish the yetzer hara, he actually transformed it to become like a second godly soul. He took his animal soul and made it like a second godly soul with animal powers. It's like a new superhero, Animal soul with divine control, divine mind control. Then there's the incomplete Rasha, the tzaddik, the Rasha, the one whose animal soul either does or has the possibility to control the body. And it has the godly soul that pops up and makes it feel guilty, or tries to not, or even makes it restrain itself. But the fact that it could pop up to the animal soul could express itself behaviorally is a Rasha. Then there was the extreme case of the Rasha, the Ralo, the Rasha that has bad to him, that his divine soul is becomes more transcendent and doesn't even help him have regret to change himself. All we talked about, why today is the main reason it's important is this is going to be the backdrop of next week to understand the ultimate average person, the Beinoni, who while being a Rasha on the insides can choose behaviorally to never give in to that on the outsides. So he's not a tzaddik. We'll see the Beinoni is not tzaddik, it's not naturally, but never gives in behaviorally to the thought, speech, and action of the animal soul. That's the Beinoni. That's what all of us strive for. And so let's take a couple questions. I saw there was one in the chat. Somebody's in the chat. Is the battle itself good? We're going to learn that the battle, not only is it good, God created us with it, it is the microcosm of the whole purpose of this world. So actually, we're going to learn different various levels. We're going to learn first that the battle is the purpose of the Beinoni, of all of us. That yes, the battle and the working towards controlling the battle is our purpose. We're going to learn later that how it has macrocosmic ripple effect as well. So the idea of a battle is made like that. Some mention a narcissist. Yeah, I don't know if every narcissist, I say a sociopath is a narcissist, but I don't know if every narcissist you could say has no regret or no divine soul. But, maybe in that realm, the narcissist has no, is amoral maybe. You can unmute yourself if you want to ask a question, or you can type in the chat.
Hey, Yitzi, I've got a question.
Yeah.
So you said earlier about the essentially a pact that is made when the soul goes in the body. There's an oath to strive to be in tzaddik, right?
Yeah.
So does that mean every Rasha doesn't start out that way? The Rasha becomes a Rasha, right? Because how does that work?
It's a great question, and you should know Tanya is really beautiful in the next 3 chapters, where it takes those Talmudic passages about the soul's descent to the world, and it shows its thesis within the words. So I would say, I could tell you now, in short, it's telling you like this: be a tzaddik in behavior, don't be a Rasha in behavior. And the passage goes on. And even if the whole world tells you that you're a tzaddik, meaning that you can relax now, your insides are naturally holy, don't believe them. You still have to work hard and never allow a Rasha behavior. So be a tzaddik behavior, don't be a Rasha behavior. We're not asking you to change your natural insides, which only very few people have that mission and opportunity, like the Rebbe or the great, some said the 36 hidden tzaddikim. Yeah, that'd be the idea. So that's a spoiler alert. Sorry.
All right, thank you.
And also another point is we'll see later, you can be a tzaddik in a certain thing, meaning I'd imagine no one here has any desire to go kidnap somebody and hurt them, right? So in that sense, you're a tzaddik, right? In that very extreme sin, you have no desire to do that. You don't have to fight with yourself, right? It's someone that would do that. It's abhorrent to us.
I have a question.
Yes.
When I say the V'ahavta in the morning and the evening, I say you should love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. B'chol lebavcha, b'chol nafshecha. What about that nefesh, nafshecha? Is that
Excellent question?
Is that the godly soul or is that the animal soul? Or is that some other?
Let me tell you to read the V'ahavta.
What?
I'm gonna translate the V'ahavta, and I remember the first part to translate it according to the Hasidic philosophy. I'm going to I think I know the second part as well. V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha. You shall love the Lord your God. B'chol levavecha, with all your heart. U'b'chol nafshecha, with all your soul. U'b'chol me'odecha, with all your might, or money, depending how you translate it. Levavecha there is spelled actually, it's brought down. Levavecha is spelled in a weird way. How do you say heart? Lev, right? Lamed vet. Here, for whatever reason, grammatically, it used the more unique type of grammar, levavecha. It could have said libcha, v'ahavta es libcha. You should love it with v'ahavta es Hashem lekecha b'chal libcha, with all your lev. Why the double vase? And the reason it's brought down, I believe in the Talmud even, that you should love God with your yetzer hara. It's actually referring to this, and our job in this life is to love God with our animal soul as well, to whatever extent possible. Having said that, I don't remember offhand, I would imagine that the next stage, b'chol nafshecha, is referring to the divine soul. Because loving God with your animal soul is covered already in that first b'chol levavecha.
I think
Two hearts.
This is my personal view, is that the levav is really your intellect. It's a euphemism for your intellect.
It could, you know what, I have to look it up. There are many commentaries on this. We're talking here in a certain context. A lot of times you can take a Talmudic passage or a biblical verse and understand it, because the Torah has many layers. So we want to understand this in that layer is how it would make sense. So I'm not saying it's true or not, but it could be in a different context. Someone asked a question. If not too far off topic, I've heard Judaism believes in guardian angels. How does this affect intuition, decision to have righteous behavior? Okay, guardian angels. So, first of all, whatever guardian angels were thinking has Christological overtones, undertones, because that's what, you got the angel in the background. So we're not talking about that. You can try to don't think of a pink elephant. Sorry, you just said it. Don't think of that concept of guardian angel. What is it? Every mitzvah we do, it says creates an angel, meaning we're creating energy that is eternal energy. So all good that we have actually perpetuates itself, and it says even bad that you have also perpetuates itself, or it can just stick to you. So a guardian angel, I would think in this context is that Hashem is rooting for us. Hashem is giving us, like an extra booster, trying to help us. And our mitzvahs generate energies, angels are energies that help us pick the next right choice. If that makes sense. So that's how I would understand guardian angels in this context.
I've also
Every,
heard, I'm sorry, but I've heard that when Yaakov was wrestling with this being, this
it was an angel.
It was Esau's guardian angel. I heard that. I don't know what that means, but there is
right.
I've heard that in the Jewish commentary.
Right. So right. So well, I have a question. Would God create for Esau, a wicked guy, a guardian angel to help him perpetuate his Esau bad behavior? What it means there is, I think what it means there is that every human being in this world exists in a spiritual version of yourself, right? The soul comes to the body, but the soul also has the mazel. Mazel refers to the part of the soul that's not in the body. It's your soul's not just what's giving you electrical impulses to be alive. The soul is a complete entity that proceeds and is beyond the physical life. So there's a part of the soul that doesn't come into the body. That's called the mazal. I think that would be what it would mean in that sense. He was wrestling with Esau's mazal, his transcendent personality. Anyways, we're going to sign off here. One last question on the content. Okay. I want to actually put something here. Tonight actually went to New Jersey, to New York, in order to visit the Rebbe's resting place in Queens. So the reason I'm telling you that is because in Wednesday night, tomorrow, there's going to be, it's the beginning of the Rebbe's
Yard site?
yard site. Let me just. So I just sent my email in the chat. You have it probably. I'm going to put in names of people, and the way you're mentioned in prayers is your Hebrew name, if you know it, and your mother's Hebrew name. Or for any person, let's say your cousin's Hebrew name, or their English name if you don't know, and their mother's. The person, whether male or female, and Ben or Bas, their mother. If you know the Hebrew name is good. If not, the English will work. If you'd like to send me an email, I'll be going there tonight. I'll be happy to mention any of you, particularly, generally, or particularly for a certain issue. It's a very special day, the days leading up to the Rebbe's yard site.
We know some people who are sick. You want us to give you their name?
You can email me. Email me their name and their mother's name, or for any other need or wish or thing. So the name of the person and their mother's name, and I will be going there tonight, late at night, to the Rebbe's Ohel. I'll have you all in mind. And it's also good for us to get in the mode, because this Wednesday night, tomorrow night, there's a Chabad at 7:30 is having a concert of Nigunim, of the Rebbe's Nigunim, by a cellist. And Rabbi Vogel will be giving commentary, songs with inspired soul, to get us in the mood of the Rebbe's incredible power. The Rebbe was a tzaddik. As we said, the Rebbe was a tzaddik who mastered and took his animal soul and made it just a force for good. And one of the ways we can't be a tzaddik, but by us connecting to a tzaddik, whether through prayer, mentioning our names, or observing their yard site, we get that special booster. So that's one of the ideas in the context of tonight's class. So please feel free to email me your name, your loved ones' names, and everybody's respective mother's name as well.
Thank you, Rabbi.
All the best.
Thank you very much.